In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 tips that will help you get started with beekeeping in South Africa. These are 3 things that I realized after I had started beekeeping were vitally important to being successful. Hi, my name is Stuart from Bee Sanctuary. I've been beekeeping for 3 years now, and I want to share with you 3 things that I learned in the beginning that I consider vitally important to getting started when you're beekeeping in South Africa. Tip number 1 is don't skip the courses. Look, you've got YouTube and you can go and learn a lot from YouTube. But when I was looking at YouTube, I found that most of the videos are American or European, and the strain of bees that they've got there is very different to the bees that we've got in South Africa. As a good example, if you followed the methods of beekeepers in America without using the full kit, you might find yourself in some serious situations. Ow! Shit! Ow! So I don't suggest learning from YouTube. Yes, YouTube is a great resource to sort of have a look at ideas and see what's going on, but it's not the resource to use to actually understand the Scutellata that we have here in South Africa. My recommendation is you start with courses. I did my first course, which was a beginner's course, and it got me into beekeeping. It actually got me to love and be passionate about bees and beekeeping. What I learned in that course was the biology and the natural way that bees go about their business. And at the time, I didn't really realize how important that was. I thought, no, look, I just want to get into beekeeping, get inside the hives. Understanding how the bees act in nature is so important to being a good beekeeper, because you can design the way that you do your hive maintenance and your beekeeping according to what the bees would do in nature. The second course that I went on was an advanced course, and in that course, I learned how to split and how to rear queens. This is important if you're looking to increase the number of colonies in your apiary. And so as a beekeeper who is potentially looking to use this as a business, this is quite an important skill to have. And there's various ways to do this. So I highly recommend you do an advanced course once you understand the basics of beekeeping. The third course I went on was a bee removal course. Now, I was doing bee removals before I went on the course, but once I went on the course, I realized where I was making mistakes and how to be more efficient, and also what sort of materials and tools could make the job easier. So if you're looking at doing removals, then do a course with somebody who's experienced, who's got plenty of removals under their belt and understands the different cavities that the bees will nest in. And then you can tap into that knowledge and that information to know what you would need to extract the bees from those different areas. So you can watch YouTube and you can learn from the YouTube videos. I'm making one right now for you to learn from. But there's not a lot on the Apis Mallifera Scutellata, which is the African bee. And it's important for you to learn about the species and the bee that you're working with in comparison to what the bees are that they're working with in Europe and America, because there is differences on how you need to operate and work with them. Tip number 2 for me was finding a mentor. So I was fortunate enough by doing the courses, I picked up a great mentor who I've done some removals with. In fact, I did my removal workshop with him as well. And then he also encouraged me to join an association. There's a whole lot of people there that I can have conversations with. Now, you'll hear this from plenty beekeepers. You pose one problem to a group of beekeepers, you're going to get 100 answers back on different ways to do things. There's nothing wrong with that. Try them, try different things. Always fall back onto the natural biology of the bees though, and what you learned in that initial course that I spoke about. And that way you'll be able to work out what works for you and works for the bees really, really well. But having a mentor who's already got many years of beekeeping behind them is something which will give you a jump start, particularly when you encounter a problem and you don't really know the answer, and you can pick up the phone or send them a message and say to them, my bees are doing this. What do you recommend I do? And then you can give that a go and try it. This worked for me very, very well in the beginning. I'm still a member of an association. And I take a lot of the questions that I have to the meeting and I'll ask 2 or 3 beekeepers the same question. And then I take that knowledge and I bring it back and I try and solve the problem that I may be having with my bees or something new that I want to try with my bees. So get yourself a mentor or a group of mentors, people that you can consult with on a regular basis. The last tip, but probably the most important, is buy good quality equipment. In the beginning, when I started out, I wasn't certain if I was going to play the long game in beekeeping. And so I did look at pricing a lot and I might have bought a couple of pieces of equipment that were a bit cheaper. And as you know, when you buy cheap equipment, it's either going to break or there will be something faulty on it. Speak again to people who have been doing this for a long time. You know, there are some people that like certain things, like they don't like the big PVC gloves, which we wear, particularly when we're doing removals. They prefer to have thick surgical gloves that they use because it gives them more feeling. You've got to try those 2 things out and see what works best for you. We bought cheaper suits, so the veils on those suits were very, very thin. And very quickly we started getting holes in our suits. And believe me, one tiny little hole, a bee is going to find its way in there, and then another bee and another bee, and eventually you're going to have a couple of bees inside your veil, and that's pretty scary with our bees. So my recommendation is don't be shy to pay good money for good equipment. Good equipment is going to last you longer, and you'll be safe, as well as your bees will be happy in their boxes. You're not going to have to replace those. So I hope these 3 tips helped you, and I'm going to make a lot more of these videos in the future. So be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.